Good evening and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal fans phone in, where we give you the opportunity to join us on the podcast, join us live on air, have your say on all things Arsenal. You can talk about whatever you want, basically. We don't mind. It's completely up to you. You have the opportunity to say whatever you want on Arsenal. The forum is yours. Apologies for the little bit of feedback there. I always do that. I put the feed on so that I can see the live chat, and I always forget to hit the mute button, which is really, really annoying. So apologies for that. But we are live, and these things happen, unfortunately, when you do things live. We've got lots of callers lined up for you this evening. If you want to join us, you can. All you need to do is DM us on Twitter, at Chronicles_AFC with your name and telephone number. If you are talking to us from abroad, we need a Skype address instead. In case you didn't see the trailer that we put out yesterday, we are releasing a Dennis Bergkamp special on Monday. We thought that there's some be a good time to reflect on some of Arsenal's legends and put some smiles back on our faces, seeing as we're all feeling a little bit disillusioned with things at the moment. One day we're signing this player, the next day we're not. One day we've agreed personal terms with this guy, the next day we haven't. So many conflicting reports, so many conflicting stories, going around the moment that you don't know what to believe. And it is really, really irritating as an Arsenal fan. A big hello to all of you in the live chat at the moment. Welcome. And thank you for joining us. A big thank you to those listening later on via the audio as well. We appreciate that too. I'm going to start off actually by talking about this Stan Kroenke movement that has been gaining traction on social media over the last couple of days. A lot of fans have been getting together, some of which are going to be joining on the phone later on to talk about it. And putting together this little petition, a little protest against Stan Kroenke. It isn't going to be easy to remove this guy from our club. It's a business for him. He doesn't care. He sits in his ivory tower in the United States collecting his dividends every year. He is not fussed about Arsenal Football Club. And whilst, I agree that he has his faults and we're probably better off without him, I'm not sure how we're going to make that happen. I'm not sure how we're going to get rid of this guy. If you've got any ideas, of course, join us, jump on, tell us what you think. Let's head over to our first caller. And I imagine a lot of you are probably watching Love Island this evening. So if you are, put it on pause, watch it afterwards. Let's dial up caller number one.
Hello, Harry. How are you?
Good evening, mate. How are you? What's your name and where are you talking to us from?
I'm Luke. I'm talking to you from Harlow. So just sounds like an Essex boy as well.
Essex boy. Welcome, Luke, mate. Not too far from me, Harlow. I'm in Enfield. It's not miles away.
It's not miles away.
How are you doing, first of all?
Yeah, not too bad. Already stressed for the next season, but it is what it is. You know what I mean?
So, what have you made of the transfer stories doing the rounds? Any of them exciting you at the minute?
No, not really. Because I tend to block it out as hard as it is. I just block out all the transfer rumors because it is a bit weird. You've got like so many conflicting things, like you said. I think we've just been linked with Kieran Tierney. Apparently we're making a £22 million bid. But no one really knows if he's our first choice. Are we going to make a £22 million bid? Last week, Carrasco was all done and dusted. Now that probably seems to be not even going to happen, and he's probably going to go to Bayern Munich. So it's stressful. But when we didn't win the Europa League, we knew this was going to be one of them. This is going to be a real weird summer transfer window, because as well as getting in players, we have to get the players out as well that we don't want to have in the team. So it's going to be a very, very long process, and I don't really know what way it's going to go, to be honest.
Are we going to be able to get some of these players out, though? Because, there are some reports that there were a couple of clubs interested in Granit Xhaka. That's turned out to be a load of bollocks by the looks of it. Mesut Ozil is one that people talk about getting rid of. What's your take on that? Would you keep him, or would you be doing everything to get him out the door?
Oh, see, it's such a strange one. So ever since he signed, I've been a massive fan of Mesut Ozil. I've loved him. I've supported him through thick and through thin. But no player is bigger than the club. For the past 2 seasons, season and a half, if you're a world-class player, yes, you're talent and you're a luxury player. You know, if you want to play for Arsenal Football Club, you have to work for the, you know, for the badge on the shirt. You know, say if you work for the front, the badge on the shirt, they'll remember the name on the back. Ozil just doesn't frankly pull his weight, and we're at a situation now where we can't afford to have luxury players floating around. And obviously, everyone talks about the wage budget. £350 a week is absolutely ridiculous on any level. But I always look at like teams like Manchester City, for example. Like, you know, they've got world-class players in their team, and I know they've got a group of world-class players. But the difference is every single world-class player in that team, off the ball, they work hard. Same with Liverpool, off the ball, they work hard. They've now established themselves as world-class midfielders in that team as well. Like, you look at the likes of Ronaldo, you know, I'd happily say I think he's, you know, a world-class midfielder. Yes, he's probably not got the ability as he had, but he's worked it, and now he works really hard as well. But Ozil, quite frankly, just does not work. I know you see stats about his pace, like he's running off the ball and stuff. But it's just, you know, when he loses the ball, it's, you know, he throws his hands up. It's like the frustration, and like as horrible as it is, I just think I don't like the way it's panned out. But I think it's time that he has to go. How, I don't know.
When, Luke, we've not spoken before, you've not been on before, you're a first-time caller.
I am indeed.
What is your take on Unai Emery? Do you trust him to take this team forward based on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, you know what, like, it's an interesting one because when we appointed Unai Emery, like from the minute one, I didn't think we'd get top four at all. I thought we would come fifth and sixth. I thought it'd be a transition season. And to be pretty honest, he wasn't someone I was expecting to get the job. He wasn't even in my top 5 thoughts. So when he came in, I gave him how many seasons he needs. In fact, when he actually got appointed, I always said it was a 6-season project. And a lot of people thought I was really stupid. And the only reason I said it was a 6-season project is because Aubameyang has just turned 30, Ozil is 30, Mkhitaryan is 30, Koscielny is 33, Monreal is 32, and we have got a lot of older players in the team. Yes, they're experienced, but they are getting young. So the thing is, as soon as he rebuilds for another 3 seasons, he then has to rebuild for another 3 seasons and he has to, you know, get a blend of youth in as well as taking out the likes of Ozil and Aubameyang, because they will get old and they will have to go. So I felt it was very hard for him in the first place. And then for the first 31 games, the season was, for me, was a breath of fresh air. I loved it. I mean, I thought it was brilliant. But you know, everyone's going to remember the last 6 weeks of the season. The disappointing ends. I mean, and it just was, you know, a bit deja vu. Obviously, the Europa League was awful. But no, I am behind you, Unai Emery, and I think it's, you know, it's sort of impossible. I can't think of any manager that will come into the situation we've got in at the moment in time and, you know, try this, whatever the budget is, because we don't know if it's 45 million, but to try and, you know, work out, you know, what's going on. I mean, you've got to look at Pep Guardiola. He went into Manchester City and, you know, didn't win anything his first season. He beat them in the semi-final. Klopp finished 8th. And then Manchester City, obviously, he went out and had the money and spent, you know, 100 million on 4 new defenders. So I'm behind Unai Emery. I personally do think he's like, you know, what has been south to south, because I do think it's kind of impossible. I don't know what they're expecting him to do with a £45 million budget. I think if it is a £45 million budget or £50 million budget, it's very, very hard. And what I like about Unai Emery himself is that he's come out and said, you know, the project at Arsenal is like a family. You know, he thinks he's going to win something, go out and win something. At PSG, it was more, you know, it was more ruthless.
There was more pressure at PSG, wasn't there? But
yeah, there was more pressure to win the. But I think like he thinks this is a project. You know, for any manager coming into Arsenal, it's a good time to come in, because you know you're taking a club as big as Arsenal bottom up instead of, you know, maintaining saying we were winning leagues and stuff. So it's a little bit different. So you know, I'm behind Unai Emery. So I was really impressed. The only thing, you know, it's his first season. He could have got us third and to Europa League final. He didn't. Obviously, he got to the final. He didn't win it, but in the end, he came 5th. And you know, if you're doing so well for 31 games, the main question was, how could you not replicate the form you did in the last 10 that got you to that position? Because the 31 games, we were 2 points clear of Manchester United, and we were in third.
Yeah,
so you just have to ask yourself the question: what happened there? Can you blame the manager? Yes, to an extent. You know, resting players unnecessarily, in my opinion. But then also, I think the players have taken a lot of the stick as well. You know, they're not working hard, gave up, and then, you know, I don't care what anyone says, that Europa League final was an absolute embarrassment. It
was an absolute embarrassment. Yeah, there's no question about that. Luke, thank you so much for joining me, mate. Some great points. I've got to move on because I've got a few callers lined up at the minute, but thank you so much, and we hope to speak to you again in the very near future, mate.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
All the best, mate. Take care.
Thank you, Val.
That was Luke from Harlow. Let's move on to the next caller. Some interesting points. A man who is very much backing Unai Emery. Those of you who listen to this regularly will know I'm still not sure. But everybody's entitled to their opinion. That is the whole point of this show. This is why we do the phone-in. All opinions are welcome, whether you agree with me or not. I'm happy to listen to your points. I'm happy to give you a platform to share your points. And that is the whole purpose of this. So thank you to all of those who are participating this evening and have participated in the past. Let's dial up caller number 2.
Hello.
Good evening, mate. Welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you, Harry?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. What do you want to say this evening? I see your Stan Kroenke petition is getting some traction online.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, briefly, I wasn't going to talk about that, but I'll briefly explain my reasons for wanting him out. It's not because I physically loathe and hate the man. I mean, the main reason is I can't see anything other than stagnation will be the same. We won't move up. We'll just either stay the same or be going down the league under his stewardship. That's the main thing, because I think he's basically happy as long as we stay in the Premier League, pocketing the Premier League money. And I think that's the main thing with him. I don't think he's got any ambitions any higher than that. He's not the sort of person that wants to use the club as a real life football manager, like the owners of Man City, for example, and win everything that he can. I just think he's happy with the way things are. And that's the reason why I really want someone who owns the club, who loves the club, who's got more loftier ambitions. And that's the main thing I want, really, with regards to the ownership. And I know that, I've had a few conversations with people on Twitter about the petition, saying, well, of course, petitions ain't going to change nothing, hashtags ain't going to change nothing. Of course it's not. I'm not stupid. I know that the petition itself is not going to do anything with regards to getting him out of the club, but what it does do is gather as big a group as possible, hopefully, of like-minded individuals who do want him out of the club, who we can then, create loud noise between all of us. Whatever people decide to do, when you get a big group together, we can, actually have some conversation and some dialogue between everyone and decide which way forward we can go. But it's all about creating that noise, and we have to start somewhere, stamping your feet, basically.
That's right. Great points. What else did you want to talk about this evening, Andrew? Lots of transfer rumours. Is that something you want to touch on?
I do want to touch on a couple of the transfer rumours, yeah, and actually about the transfers themselves as well. I mean, all I keep seeing on Twitter is that we've agreed terms with players, and then we're putting the offer to the club. I mean, that seems completely arse about faces to me. I mean, surely it'd be better and better time spent putting the offers into the club, getting the club's acceptance of the offer, and then agreeing terms with the player, surely, rather than doing it the other way around. I mean, you can't believe anything you read on Twitter, obviously, but if that's the case, then I don't understand why we do it that way around, because if you have agreed terms with the player and then the club, know that you've agreed terms with the player, then what they're going to do, if they've got any sense, they're going to shove an extra few £1 million on the price because you're stuck then, because you've agreed terms with the player. And if you, rather than spending 20 million on a player, for example, then they're going to say, well, we want 25 now.
But Andrew, could it not be because maybe doing the deal with the club is the hardest part, and Arsenal don't want to go through that if they're not sure that the player wants to join and that they can afford what the player is asking for? So perhaps it's from a business perspective that they go to the player first, make sure that he wants to come, feel it out without doing anything official. But, then they know to go in with a bid. They know whether this deal is likely to happen and whether to spend a lot of time negotiating back forward with the other club. Could it not be that?
It could be, yeah. I mean, it clearly can work both ways, doing it both ways. But I think the biggest negative is what I just said about the club then having to ransom for that player. Knowing that you've agreed terms of the player's happy to leave, you want the player, the player wants to go, then they've got you over a barrel, surely. Yeah. Rather than agreeing the actual price first. No. I don't know. I mean, anyway, that's by the by. But I think Fraser from Celtic, for me, would be probably the most important signing of the summer. And if the figures are true, for 20 million, we've got, surely just got to tie it up at 20 million, because that's an absolute bargain. He's exactly what we need with regards to some real energy and some better quality balls at the end of it on our left flank. I mean, he can play left back or left wing back, so absolutely ideal as far as he's concerned, I think.
I mean, for me, Andrew, I'm still a bit on the fence about Tierney, because I'll be honest, I haven't seen a great deal of Celtic.
I said Fraser, didn't I? I meant Tierney, of course. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I gathered that. Don't worry. That's why I said Tierney. But for me, I'm still on the fence about him, because, I mean, how many Celtic games have I watched this season? Probably one. So, judging by YouTube reels, I guess, and what people say.
I've listened to... basically, I work on my own all day. A bit of a sad matter, I know, but I work on my own all day. So I listen to podcasts all day. And I've listened to some Scottish podcasts since the Tierney rumours, just to get some ideas about what the actual pundits and professionals up there have been saying about him. And the biggest thing I've heard is that, I mean, obviously going by what they say, he's 2 years younger than Robertson at Liverpool. And on a few occasions, it's a very close thing between the Scottish fans and the pundits about who's the best player. But at his age, 2 years younger, they're saying basically that he's a very similar player, but he's his age, he's better than Robertson was 2 years ago. Now, obviously, he's been with Klopp since then. So
that's a big statement, isn't
it? Vastly improved him, but I mean, even if, to be fair, if he ends up being 75% of the player Robertson is, then I'm excited about that, to be perfectly honest. He could offer us an awful lot and create a lot more chances than we've got at the moment. And that's what we need.
What about in terms of players out, Andrew? People have been talking about Granit Xhaka leaving. Manchester United reportedly have an interest in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. What's your take on those stories?
If we sold Aubameyang to Man United, then I think that'd be it for me. I mean, you cannot sell him to Man United or any other team that we're going to be challenging against for the top four. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if we do that again, then what are we doing? It's just the end, really, isn't it? We might as well just give up. I mean, if we're going to sell him, I don't want to sell either of our forwards. But if we do have to sell one of them, it has to be Aubameyang because of his age, etc. But he's got to sell abroad, as simple as that, not to any club in England. It would be suicide again, like we did with Van Persie, and he went off there and he won Man United the league that season.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to say quickly, I know you're probably being pushed for time, but I can't see any reason why in the early rounds of the Europa League and in the early rounds of the cup competitions next season, why Steve Bold can't take the under-23s team and go and play those games. It's a win-win situation. The Emery in the first team to stay behind and obviously rest for those games, putting an end to the problem playing Thursdays and the weekends.
There's got to be some sort of rule, though, isn't there, that prevents that? Surely you have to register a squad of players.
But I can't see one at the moment. You can change your, as far as I can see, you can change your squad to a certain extent in the latter part in the knockout rounds. You can actually add and change a few players. That's what I've seen. In case you get, you lose players in the January window, or you get players that are late season injuries, you can actually add and take away a few players out.
That's a really interesting one. And those of you who are watching, what do you think about that? Let us know in the chat. There's an interesting debate going on about Unai Emery in the chat, which I'll come on to in a moment. But Andrew, thank you so much for joining me, mate. Always appreciate your calls. Great points as always. And we'll speak to you soon. And hopefully you join us for the rest of the show in the chat.
Yes, I will do. Yes, definitely. You caught me on the hop. I wasn't expecting any calls so early. So, yes, I'll join it straight away, mate.
Brilliant. Lovely. Great stuff, mate.
No,
Speak to you soon.
cheers. Thanks a lot, Harry. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. That was Andrew, a regular caller. Great gentleman with some great points as always. Let's have a look at the chat. Let's go over to the chat. Lots of interesting comments coming through in there. There's a bit of an Unai Emery debate going on at the moment. Rinat Sahab says that he's not been too impressed with Unai Emery. What did he do in France? He took one national title. That's it. Andre Cossack has come back with it's not easy to win 3 UEFA Cups. It had never been done. PSG had their issues. They were literally kissing the asses of their players. Did you hear what the club's president said about Neymar? So Andre basically saying that the issues are elsewhere at PSG. Unai Emery wasn't necessarily to blame. Cannon Fodder TV says if Emery wants to make a statement of intent, then promote more players from the youth setup: Smith Rowe, Saka, Willock, Medley, etc. Some great debate going on in there. Big hello to every single one of you that's tuned into us live at the moment, and of course to those watching us or listening to us later on the audio or on the YouTube upload. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're listening. It really does help. It pushes the video up the rankings. More people get to see it, and ultimately that's what we want. Just a quick reminder, I've done a little interview this morning actually with a very interesting gentleman. He happens to be one of Jurgen Klopp's staff at Liverpool. He's a throwing coach. Yes, that exists, a throwing coach. He was brought in by Jurgen Klopp specifically at the start of last season to improve Liverpool throw-ins because they were losing the ball too much from them and they weren't making good use of them. This gentleman took the time out of his day to speak to me on my own YouTube channel earlier, which is Harry Symeou Media. Only started it a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It's in the very early stages, not many subscribers as of yet. But yeah, do head over there. That was a great interview that I've done today. And he gives you some fantastic insight into Jurgen Klopp's thinking. And I know he's Liverpool's manager, but it's always interesting to hear how the successful managers work. And he gives you some fantastic insight into throw-ins. You never knew there was so much to talk about when it comes to throw-ins. So do check that out. Let's see what else we've got in the chat. Hello to Sukham Baines. Hello to Andrew, who's joined us in the chat. Chris, Gentile. Let's have a look. Who else we've got? Luke, Frank Gunner, 95 Winston, Dro the Gooner. Welcome all of you. And thank you for tuning in as always. Let's go down to our next caller. Let's hit up caller number 3 for the evening. Bear with me a second. Here we go. Don't forget, if you want to join us, you know the drill by now. All you need to do is DM us on Twitter at Chronicles_AFC with your name and number. We will get you on the line. If you're calling from abroad, we need a Skype address. Unfortunately, the system we have here will not allow us to make international calls, but we'll still get in touch via Skype. Happy to do so. So if you want to have a chat, have your say, you know the drill by now. Let's hit up caller number 3.
Hello.
Good evening, mate. Welcome to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Do you want to tell our listeners your name and where you're talking to us from?
Yeah, mate. It's Deepak from Welling.
How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for the call. Just wanted to start off by having a bit of a rant.
Go for it, mate.
Yeah, sort of really like missing the Premiership and all the games and all the banter that goes on. But one thing that has really gotten to me since the end of the season is all the transfer talk. I mean, we've been linked with everyone, anyone and everyone, and it is really boring, like every day. I mean, what's your take on it? How do you feel about all the speculation, and do you get a bit bored with it, or is it just me? Or
to be honest, I am bored of it. I think a lot of it is absolute nonsense. It's based on absolutely fuck all evidence, which gets a little bit frustrating. As someone like myself who tries to create content on a daily basis, it does give us something to discuss. It does give us something to talk about. But after the last few weeks and the way things have gone, and the way we've heard one side of something. For example, we're going to sign this player. We've agreed personal terms. I'm talking about Alexis Claude Maurice. And then we hear that we were never even in for him and there was never a bid made. It just drives me crazy. And we've decided to launch a legend series as a result of that. I'll still talk about it. I'll still touch on it on the daily videos. But for me, it's got to all be taken with a pinch of salt, hasn't it? Because these stories, I guess people are just making them up and, they're catching on like wildfire via social media.
I mean, you look at like our rivals and other clubs, and I don't see the likes of other fan channels and like podcasters and whatnot, like making such a big hoo-ha about who's coming. I mean, I think about myself and I think, okay, if I'm to change job and I have a look at the company and stuff, and if before I go an interview and if I hear all of this stuff and all these expectations, and it must influence like the player, who's even being looked at. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out. My second point is in all these transfer talks and all these players we're linked to, I've been seeing a pattern where a lot of them are young, like 19, 22, in between that category. What's your take on that age range and, like the quality of the players? I know, okay, you've got players like, I know we're not linked to the link, is it? But if we were, he's played in the Champions League and he's doing bits and what have you. But do you know what I mean? Like, what's your whole take on the, us being linked to so many youngsters?
I think that comes, there's two sides to that. I think we're being linked to the players we're being linked to because the general feeling amongst the press at the moment and most of the respected journalists out there is that we don't have much money to spend. So, I think that has influenced a lot of the, the stories that have come out. It seems that we're shopping within a certain price range. And so people are, making those stories because they're easy to write. I think players like, that we've been linked with, like Kieran Tierney, Ryan Fraser, etc. These players are around about that £20 million mark. And that seems to be where our shopping. We can't compete with City, with United. We're not going to go out there and spend 30, 40 million on one player, unfortunately. As much as I'd love us to, I don't think it's going to happen. So I think it's partly that. I think Arsenal are preparing for the future as well. And I think that future, and this might be a little bit controversial, but I think that future doesn't necessarily include Unai Emery in it. I think that Arsenal are looking at the longer term. I personally believe that they're grooming Freddie Ljungberg for the manager's job. I think that's why he's been promoted now. I think if you're going to go down the route of youth, and it's clear Arsenal want to go that way, they don't really want to spend big money, then Freddie Ljungberg is the perfect man. He's the mentor for these young guys, and who better to oversee their transition from the under-23s into the first team than him? So I think Arsenal are building for the future at the moment, and I think we need to be a little bit patient. And I think that's why we're being linked with the level of player we are and not necessarily the top bracket. But at the same time, can a club like Arsenal afford not to be in the Champions League for very long? And so you've got to find that balance, haven't you?
I just want to churn this a bit more. I sincerely hope they're not trying to develop Ljungberg into being the head coach, as it were. Do you know why? Because the difference between a supervisor and a manager, and just look at the absurd and over the top expectations of our fan base. I don't think. There's one thing managing the under-23s and then, jumping straight up into a first team coach, especially at a transition club like Arsenal. That's the first point. The second point. Now, you mentioned players like Ryan Fraser there and one or two others. You see, I cast my mind back when we moved to the Emirates, right? And we went down this whole, Wenger, that getting rid of players who are like 27, 28. We had that model of pure youth. And what that did for us was there was no experience on the pitch. When the shit hit the fan and, it was like last 20 minutes and we needed to get the game in the bag, there was no one to step up, yeah, there were likes of Fabregas, and he had the captaincy, and amazing servants to the club. But even then, we've lacked that role model, that player. You also mentioned about us being linked to the £40 million price category. Now, and in previous years, that's how much we spent. But I don't think so, because when you look at Lacazette, when you look at Aubameyang, even Torreira and Leno, they were more than. Okay, they weren't more. Well, Aubameyang and Lacazette was more than 40 mil, but the rest were not. But at the same time,
sorry, Deepak, I think there's a massive difference here, though, between then and now. And the difference is that I think the club, and rightly or wrongly, probably wrongly now looking back on it, I think the club always trusted Arsene Wenger to spend that money right. I'm not sure that after the first season and the way we fell apart, that they're entirely convinced that Unai Emery will do that and that Unai Emery is the man. Vinay and Raul, when they done that interview, Raul was very quick to keep on saying the coach, the head coach, is more of a temporary thing. He's very keen on getting a technical director in. And that position, I understand, is going to be a much more long-term position than that of Unai Emery. So Arsenal are trying to build, in my opinion, towards a model that means they can chop and change the manager and not much really changes.
But then it nullifies your point, mate, because, in terms of can Arsenal trust Unai Emery to spend the 40 mil? He wouldn't be spending it. But we don't have the technical director yet, per se. We don't have that person. But, from that interview, and that's going to lead on to my third point. But from that interview, as we're led to believe, head coach is just, is very easily replaceable. But I don't believe that interview is just more than it's nothing more than a PR stunt at the end of the day to try and keep us, try and keep us all happy. But at the end of if you're going to have that person who's going to manage the transfers, probably that 30, 35 odd days left of the transfer window. Not just Arsenal, nobody's bought anyone yet. Top 5, top 6. That's right, correct me if I'm wrong. So, question mark, 40 mil, question mark, who's spending the money?
But then, whether it's the spending or not, though, do they trust Emery to manage the team correctly? Do they trust him to get the maximum out of the group of players? Because in my opinion, he should have qualified for the Champions League this year.
Well, it depends, because now it's pure speculation, isn't it? In terms of, that was initially the start of the season, a lot of Arsenal fans were happy with top 6. Suddenly we go 22 unbeaten, and then we change our whole, it's okay to change your expectation mid-flight. Well, no, sorry, because if I'm contracted to do a job and these are my KPIs and, I'm hitting them, and then suddenly you change my KPI mid-contract, that's a whole new contract.
All right,
whether the Arsenal board trusts Unai or not, I think that's a whole different question, and that leads me on to my third point, which is if within a budget, let's say if we did have 200 mil, what players would you like to see at Arsenal? Because we need to get back into the top 4, the top 2, plus have European football. I'm frankly speaking, I think it's a blessing in disguise. We didn't get into Champions League. Otherwise, it would have been like a whole Wenger thing. When Wenger was there, and we were like, top 4's not enough. Top 4's not enough. We're going in the Champions League. We're getting battered by Bayern 10-2, and everyone weren't happy. So either way, Unai Emery, if you look at it, has got the impossible job. Why? Because he's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't.
No,
get back in the Champions League. They won't spend.
If he does, he'll get a round of applause from me, because he'd have achieved what he was brought into the club to do. Arsene Wenger was moved on because he wasn't finishing in the top 4. That's why he was moved on. Unai Emery's come in to do that job, and he's not done it. Now, going back to your point where you said the expectations shouldn't change, let me put this to you. This sounds like a stupid example, but I'm going to use it anyway. If you went out on a night out with Jennifer Lopez, okay, would you say you're punching if you were with Jennifer Lopez? We all would be, right? So if you went out with Jennifer Lopez and you got with her, then your expectation would be to go to second base, would it not? And if you didn't, you'd be kicking yourself because you got there in the first place. That's my point. Like, you can change your expectations going forward. That's probably an awful example, but you can change your expectations based on your progress. And having been 11 points clear of Manchester United, Tottenham absolutely capitulated in the league. If you look at the points they had ahead of us and the way they ended up, Chelsea have been as bad and as inconsistent as they have been in years, yet we still failed. You've got to hold the manager accountable for that in some way. You can't just dismiss that and say it's a blessing in disguise. We've got less money now to spend as a result of it, which hinders our progress, does it not?
Well, that all money thing. I mean, from 2006, we've been saving, and we sold. You know, how many squads did Wenger break apart, and like the millions we made, like the people like Anelka, Fabregas, Thierry Henry. Like, how much money did we? Where's all that gone? Where's all that gone? I mean, whether, you've also got to consider Emery came in like in a very unique position, i.e. taking over from someone who was responsible for everything for 22 years. So when we start talking about Arsenal have got this much money and who's responsible for spending it, and let's hold the new coach, or let's blame the new coach because we're not in the Champions League or we're not in the top four, and I believe they were his initial objectives. And he said himself, look, on both accounts, I've not done it, but this is what it means to then take a step back, rebuild our entire model, like with the right personnel, i.e., not just on the pitch, but also upstairs. And we're still struggling to find that technical director, right? And then we go forward. Like, it's taken Klopp, it's taken Pep. Pep a lot quicker because he's had the money, but it's taken Klopp a number of years to get here. Now, are we so deluded as an Arsenal fan base to think, right, Emery was going to come in and just win everything? Because sometimes when I read on social media and I see these sort of things being put out, I think people's expectations way off the mark. I don't think, we are like if we're not careful, next season, we could fall out of the top six with the likes of West Ham, Everton, Leicester City. The amount, not, even before they've spent anything, the players they've currently got.
But if we did fall out because of those clubs, and those clubs overjumped us, then we'd have been worse off by bringing Emery in. So how can you defend his appointment but then say we shouldn't be in danger of falling out to these teams? That's the point. We should be further on. I mean, Dipak, I'm going to have to...
even if you don't give you any money?
But mate, there was 75 million odd spent last summer on defensive players, and we've not improved defensively in the slightest. You've got to look at that. Thank you for the call, mate. It's a brilliant call. The best one we've had so far this evening. Great debate and everything.
Cheers,
really
fella.
appreciate
Keep up
it.
the good work, yeah?
Thanks very much, mate. And sorry I have to move it on, mate. All the best.
Don't worry, fella. Bye.
That was Dipak. That was a great call. That lots of debate. That's what I like. And like I said earlier on, I may not agree with you, but it doesn't mean that I don't respect your opinion. So keep the calls coming in. Let's move on to the next one. Here we go.
Hello.
Good evening, mate. Welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner. What's your name and where are you talking to us from?
Yeah, my name's Charlie, and I'm from Surrey.
How you doing, Charlie? Welcome back, mate. You all right?
Yeah, not too bad.
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. We've been talking J-Lo tonight. We've been talking Arsenal. We've been talking transfers. We've been talking Stan Kroenke. What do you want to say?
So obviously I've been watching the show, and I've actually got a question to put to you.
Go for it.
Right. So I'm taking you back to the start of last season, right? Mm-hmm. We've not appointed a coach or anything. All these rumors are going about, and I'm putting a question to you. I'm giving you. We've got a broken squad, right? And it needs overhauling, basically.
Yep.
We've got We've got players on stupid money that it's going to be very, very difficult to ship out, and the wage bill is sky high for the quality of the squad. We've got 70 million to spend.
Mm-hmm.
Name me a coach that will be able to get us into the Champions League.
I believe that Carlo Ancelotti would have got us into the Champions League.
Do you think?
Genuinely believe that. And I'll tell you why. My reasons are because Arsenal never had a problem scoring goals. Arsenal had Aubameyang, Lacazette. Emery's had the benefit of having Aubameyang in his first full season. Remember, the last season with Wenger, he was only there for the second half of it. He came in January, didn't he? So, you know, we've got the attacking talent. We've got the strikers. For me, what this season was about coming in and stabilizing a team who have constantly leaked goals. Now, for me, Unai Emery hasn't done that. He did spend money on defenders, on defensive players. He bought a goalkeeper, he bought a centre-back, he bought a right-back, and he bought a defensive midfielder. I genuinely believe that another manager, a better manager, would have set the team up tactically to be better off. And I think that Unai Emery has struggled in the sense that he's not made us any more solid defensively, but at times we've also lost our attacking flair. So I think that he's struggled with the job this season. I think that, you know, things opened up for him and he had a real opportunity to grasp Champions League football and basically get away with a lot of mistakes, and he didn't. So for me,
sorry, just to interrupt quick. Do you think that the communication, the language barrier was a problem?
Absolutely.
Because
I think huge.
I'm convinced that that was a part of it, because watching at home on the TV with his interviews, you understand what he's trying to say, and he gets the vocabulary right. He gets the language, but his pronunciation of the English language at times is appalling, and for us, if we're trying to guess what he's trying to say, you know, in his interviews, imagine if, and let's not forget, most of our squad is foreign here. They're not all fluent English speakers, and from what I hear, I've read his book and everything. He's an extremely passionate guy in the dressing room, and if he's trying to deliver a message, how he wants the team to be set up, how he wants them to play in his way, I can't see them understanding a huge amount of how he's coming across.
I completely agree. I think that's been a real problem this season. And, you know, I'm not knocking him for trying to speak English. I think it's a very brave thing.
I think it's a good effort, to be honest, because there are so many that come in, they just can't be asked. But he spoke English from the get-go, even though it was obvious that it was broken English. And he said himself, he talks broken English to the guys in the dressing room, but they just compliment him, saying you're doing a good job. But he said in Paris Saint-Germain, when he tried to speak broken French, they just took the piss out of him, basically.
Yeah. I mean, look, hands down, he's done a great job in trying to learn the language. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, and for that, he deserves immense credit. But it is a problem, and at times you've got to just swallow your pride and do what's best for the team. And I think Maurizio Pochettino is a prime example of that. When he first came to England, it was a translator all the time. And you know, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Sarri had one at the very beginning as well. And as the season went on, his language developed.
But his English is better, actually. I've noticed. I was actually extremely surprised how good his English was.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would say with Emery as well. I think he tinkers way too much with the squad. There was a time during the season when he was doing a 4-2-3-1, and it was the back. I can't quite remember the absolute back four, but it was the Norman, Mustafi, Socrates, I think it was, Kolasinac, and then Bellerin with the goalkeeper, and then we had the Torreira and Xhaka in the two, with Aubameyang on the left, Ozil and Mkhitaryan, and then Lacazette up front. And I remember seeing the results going over, like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, all these teams that we were playing, and it seemed like a settled team. They knew what they were doing, and then all of a sudden he changes it.
Yeah, and that's been my issue as well. It's the changes have come at the wrong times. There's been too much tinkering. There was probably a bit of indecisiveness in regards to whether to go down the Premier League approach or the Europa League approach. I think that was a problem. And I think there are a lot of things. Just quickly, just to pause you there for a second, mate. A few comments coming through in the chat. Luke says, didn't we beat Carlo Ancelotti's Napoli home and away without conceding? We did. But as I've said on previous shows, that was down to the Premier League being superior in terms of intensity to Serie A. I genuinely believe that. I do a lot of work on Serie A.
Just interrupting you quickly with Napoli. Do you believe that they are better or worse under Ancelotti than they were Sarri? Because in my opinion, I think they're not as good under Ancelotti than they were Sarri.
I think the problem is that Sarri has a very, very specific way of doing things. I think he assembled a squad in order to complement his style of football. When Ancelotti came in, it was a completely different philosophy, a completely different way of playing. And he's had to work with players that ain't necessarily his players. But having said that, Napoli still, under Carlo Ancelotti, are punching well above their weight, because they should be below Milan. They should be below Lota. They should be below Roma. In terms of the size of Napoli Football Club, they are punching well above their weight. So Ancelotti deserves immense credit for that, for keeping them at the level that Sarri had them. So, yeah, I mean, deserves credit. Just finally, Charlie, before I let you go, what's your thoughts on Christian Bielik? He's been playing in the under-21s, in the Euros. Lots of people raving about him. Would you give him a chance at Arsenal next season?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, actually, because I'm currently taking a course in scouting and technical director.
Oh wow!
Because that's where I want to get to, basically. And so I love watching players and stuff. And I watched him in the playoffs for Charlton, and I watched him last night against Italy, and Italy have some quality players, by the way. You know, Chiesa, they have Pellegrini. They had some, you know, I have Pellegrini personally as midfielder, just putting in there to replace Ramsey. But for Bielik, he stood out for me incredibly well. I mean, his composure, his one-touch, two-touch play. Even though they were a counter-attacking side last night, he was very much the orchestrator of it all. And what interested me the most was he started off in defence. They sort of did a back five, I believe. And he was the centre of that. And then he moved into midfield during the game. So tactically, he is a very, very intelligent player. He's very composed on the ball. And in my opinion, I would hands down give him a chance in the first team. And to take his if he was to come into the team, I would sell Chambers, because I think they're not similar players, but they're similar position.
Okay.
So I would get rid of James. I know he's done well at Fulham, but he's 24 and he's I think he's not quite the level of Arsenal, but Bielik is 21, and for me he's a quality player, and I think he really could add not only the quality we need in that position, but I think the versatility as well. Yeah. Because you know how Emery likes to tinker with his formations from a back five to, you know, back four. I think he can fill in that role really well. And let me just put it to you, if he wasn't an Arsenal player and he was playing for someone else and he's 21 and we saw him playing how he is, how many people do you think would be saying, oh, he's like a £40 million player, we should go and get him?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. He's done really well, and his reputation continues to grow. My only concern about Bielik is that he's been very clear that he wants to play first team football. And given Unai's track record with the youngsters, I'm not sure that he's going to convince him.
Rightly so, but the reason why he says it because he believes that he's good enough. And from what I've seen, I honestly think he's given a chance.
Absolutely. Charlie, thank you very much for your call, mate. And we'll speak to you again soon. All the best.
Cheers. Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
That was Charlie from Surrey. Let's move on to the next call. Totally agree with the Bielik comments, by the way. I think he's done fantastically well. And like I say, my only concern is that he's been very vocal, hasn't he, about the fact that he wants to play first team football. When he goes and sits down with Arsenal, when he sits down with Unai Emery, will he get the guarantees that he wants? Let me know what you think about that in the chat if you're watching us live. Don't forget to smash that like button too. And a big shout out to those listening back on the audio later on too. Thank you so much for your continued support. Let's hit up caller number 5, I believe, of the evening.
Welcome to the O2 messaging.
We're not getting through there. Let's move on to the next one. Well, let's give it one more try, actually. Let's give it one more try. And if we can't get through, we'll move on to caller number 6.
Welcome to the O2 messaging.
Let's move on. We'll have to try and get him on an alternative number or something shortly after 07. Almost read out someone's number live on air there. Bloody hell. Here we go. Caller number 6, who's moved into number 5 now.
Hello.
Good evening, mate. What's your name? Where are we talking to you from? Introduce yourself. Not that you need an introduction.
No, I do not, Harry. It's your boy, come much Arsenal in the building.
Welcome, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad.
Good,
Good. Things, the China rumours seem to be heating up.
How are you enjoying these transfer rumours? What do you make of them?
To be honest with you, man, I'm just taking it with a grain of salt, as you should do, because let's be honest here, half of what comes out is it's just not got any truth behind it. So we can't really take it too seriously, in my opinion.
Yep.
However, what I will say is Arsenal fans need to chill, like just calm down with like the whole meltdown crap. You know what I mean? Like, because I've seen people just saying that, oh, Kroenke out this and Kroenke out that, and don't get it twisted, I don't like him either, but it's not all down to money.
Agreed.
It's not.
Agreed.
I've said this before, Harry. You know, like our wage budget it's so like it's been badly mismanaged over a period of 5 years.
Yep.
Like even if Kroenke put in like, let's just say for example that Kroenke put in like 500 million of his own money, right? We could not spend that.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
The wage budget is so out of kilter, it's unreal. So I don't get the meltdown. I really don't. And to be honest with you, I'm sick and tired of hearing about Kroenke out this and Kroenke out that, and people saying, "Oh, retweet this and retweet that," when you and I know it's not going to do anything.
No, I totally agree. It's his business. He's not going to walk away from it just because a couple of Arsenal fans have got the arse, is he really? And to be fair, and I've said this before, you know, my biggest problem with Stan Kroenke is not so much that he doesn't spend enough money. It's more the fact that he's a passive owner. That's what annoys me. That's what irritates me more than anything, as opposed to the fact that the money's not there. Because, we did spend 50 million on Aubameyang. We did spend 40 odd, whatever it was, on Lacazette. We did buy Xhaka for 35 million. We do spend. We do sell as well, but we do spend. So I'm not overly fussed about that, to be fair. It's more about the fact that he seems like he doesn't care. That's kind of my problem with it.
Yeah, well, I wish he would be a little more invested, but
that's the right word. At
the same time, I live in the real world where you're not going to get owners like that, unless you're really lucky.
Yep, agreed.
So we just have to, make good with the situation. Like, I mean, has he done things wrong? Yes. For example, the Hunting for Sport channel, I didn't like that for moral reasons.
Yep, agreed.
That was just a grey area for me. He's also he didn't push the former manager, let's say, enough, I would say. That's another thing he's done wrong. But I'm struggling to think of anything else. Like, okay, fine, he could be more invested, but if you're an owner and you've just, like, I'll use this as an example. Let's just say, right, that Stan Kroenke buys a coffee shop tomorrow, right? Is he to be on the phone to the person that owns that branch every day? No.
No, exactly.
No. So he's got people to run Arsenal for him. For instance, Josh Kroenke.
Yep.
Like he looks at this as an investment. And if your investment's doing well, which it is, why would you change anything?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. What have you thought about the Christian Bielik talk? Have you seen any of his performances? Do you think he's ready to have an impact in the first team?
See, here's the thing, Harry, right? I've been very, like, kind of on the fence with the whole bringing youngsters into the first team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking just about Bielik. I'm talking about, Reece Nelson, Smith Rowe, all of them, right? Let's be honest here. Unai Emery is under incredible pressure to get top 4 next season.
Yep. If he doesn't do it, he should be gone for me. So the pressure's immense.
Listen, if he doesn't get top 4, I would say, look, let's maybe analyze it and say, okay, no Champions League for 4 years. Maybe we need more of a long-term coach than, I don't want to say short-term because I don't think Unai Emery is a short-term coach, but more someone that is prepared to put time in with the youth as well as the first team, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, because if you miss Champions League for 4 years straight, then you're looking at a different job entirely.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. I don't think Unai Emery can afford to, put youngsters into the first team just because. Like, first things first, they have to be good enough.
Absolutely.
Secondly, not only is the pressure on Unai Emery immense, but the pressure for young kids to perform, to get us into the top 4, that puts pressure on them also. And while some would say that's good, that can make or break a player. And I've seen more instances where it's broken a player than it's made a player, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, agreed.
So I don't think rushing these kids into the first team is a good idea.
I agree with you. It's got to be done only if they're ready and only if they're good enough. And I've been saying throughout the last season when people were talking about bringing Reece Nelson back, Unai Emery only has a couple of years. He cannot afford to risk, throwing these youngsters in. He wants certain things. As a manager who only had a deal that was 2 years before it could be terminated, he needs results and he needs them now. He cannot afford to wait around. And that's why, if Arsenal don't spend and they are adamant on going down this route, that's what makes me think that they're looking at life beyond Unai Emery. Just before you carry on, Colin, someone's in the live chat called IB Queefin. What a name. But he's donated on the super chat. So a big thanks to IB Queefin. And he says, I'm not going to read out what he says because it's ridiculous. But, thanks for the donation, mate. And yeah. Anyway, sorry, mate. Carry on.
I don't know. I'm kind of curious to hear what you said, though.
He says, he keeps writing. The first time he's put, my rear end is making sounds. And then on the second comment, he's put, my butt makes noises. Well, your butt can make all the noises it wants, mate, if you're donating to the podcast. Thank you so much.
Oh, my
really,
God.
Really appreciate it.
Now I regret even asking that now. Oh, man.
Oh, dear.
No, but with this season, right, there's so much pressure involved. Like, I mean, the way I see it, we have to get off to a good start this season. We have to. And a lot of that comes down to buying said players. Like, people are talking like, oh, we need to spend over 100 million and we're behaving like cheapskates and stuff. I don't mind if we only spend 60 million, as long as they add quality to the squad.
Yep.
That's all I want. Like, if we signed, for instance, Ryan Fraser, Kieran Tierney and Armando Izzo from Torino, right? I would call that a damn good window.
Yeah, it would be.
Because Armando Izzo is a quality centre half, and considering how well Torino did last year, you know, it's not a bad idea to look at some of the lower table Italian sides, like, because there are some gems in there.
Yep.
Like we don't have to spend ridiculous sums of money, like, to improve the squad. All we have to do is spend it right.
Absolutely. Colin, I'm going to have to leave it there, mate, because I've got one more caller to get to, and we've hit the hour mark already. But thank you so much for your call. Really, really appreciate it. And we'll speak again soon, no doubt.
Indeed we will, Harry. Look forward to it. Speak to you later, all right?
Mate. Take care.
See ya, bye.
That was the brilliant Colin. Lots of you will recognize that voice. Question in the chat from Luke. If we did not get top 4, Harry, and Emery was sacked, would you still back Ljungberg for the next manager? I'm not saying that I think that Ljungberg should necessarily be the next manager. I'm saying that I think that's what the club are looking at. Just to be clear on that, I'm not, it's impossible to judge Freddie Ljungberg on what he's done so far, which is very little, isn't it? It's the under 23s. But what I will say is I think that's what the club are looking at, and that's probably the club's vision, not necessarily mine. Let's go on to our final caller of the evening. We have run a little bit over again, but you know what? It doesn't really matter. Let's dial up caller number 6.
Hello.
Good evening, mate. Welcome to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Colin, have I dialed you again?
Yes, you have.
I've had a nightmare. Sorry, mate. I've had a nightmare. It's late.
No,
Take care, mate.
Don't do not worry about it, mate.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
I've had an absolute bloody shocker there. Here we go. Let's go to the next number. This is the problem when you just have a load of numbers written in a list. Let's hit the call button.
Hello.
Good evening, mate. Welcome to the Chronicles of a Gooner. What's your name? Where are you talking to us from?
Hello, Harry. Sunny from Loughton.
How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm ill. Arsenal made me ill, mate.
What do you want to say, mate?
I was up till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock this morning, fixing ways of putting pressure on Cronky and changing our fan base mentality. Doing business plans, thinking up ideas for a YouTube channel, selling Cronky out merchandise so the supporters can wear at the ground, which would then be donated to cancer research or the Arsenal Foundation. So it would have been a total non-profit organisation.
Yep.
Just have a voice for the fans. Really, it's got to the point that obviously you know yourself that the club are mugging us off, and really there's no respect for the fans at all. And we need to now stand up and be counted. We're not stupid. We know we can't get Cronky out just by protest or whatever. But what we can do is embarrass him and embarrass the club. Which is what we need to do. Unfortunately, I'm a 49-year-old man, and I haven't got the technical ability to do it all on my own. So really, I put a tweet out today to all the big YouTube accounts, Twitter. As you know, I'm on Arsenal Fan TV,
yep.
And I do put myself out there. I don't put myself out there to be abused, to get stick, to get my family abused. I put myself out there because I love the club.
Yep.
And I only go on Arsenal Fan TV when I feel like I've got something to say. That's why this season I didn't really go on a lot. But really, and what I found and the reaction I've had is disgusting me from the Arsenal fan base, really, because the YouTube accounts, a lot of them I found at the moment, they're only interested in doing their own thing, and rather than pulling together. Arsenal's fan base has got a really big reach. I mean, we've got people from the press, we've got barristers, we've got solicitors, we've got doctors, we've got people from every walks of life. We've got people, ex-players personally, and as for the ex-players, you know, instead of sitting in the executive box with a blanket over your lap, come and sit in the North Bank with the fans. You know, we're not going to eat them. I mean, we idolise our ex-players, and if the ex-players show that they're part of our agenda against Cronky, then we will start getting traction. But it all needs to be done together. So really, what I want to happen, I did have intentions of setting up a YouTube, a non-profit YouTube, just to donate to charity. But I do need help from all the big Twitter accounts, anybody with a reach really, whether it's fans, players, whoever. But I can't do it all. I can't do it all on my own.
No, completely agree.
Timing for us is everything. I think obviously we want to see who we sign in the transfer window and what direction the club are going in. But I think the kit launch is the ideal opportunity to make ourselves heard.
So what would you do? What would you have people do at the kit launch? What's the plan?
I'll sabotage you, but in a classy way. You know, I'll protest. I'll wear our Cronky out merchandise. I'll let Adidas know, Cronky know that we're not going to part with it no more. We want to be listened to. You know, but it needs to be done in a classy way, because none of us want to get banned from the club we love. So that's the main thing. Really, I mean, again, my agenda isn't about digging out players. I mean, I could do that on Saturday on AFTV if I feel that that's what I want to do. My agenda is solely against the board, just to give up the fans some respect, really, because I feel we've got no respect at all from the club. I tweeted Arsenal today, and I said to them that I was going to do the Cronky out merchandise, and my intentions was to set it online or outside or wherever. And I just want to know if supporters wore Cronky out gear inside the Emirates, would they get kicked out or not? And obviously we didn't get no reply, which is typical Arsenal. But you know, if we could get 7 people to wear a Cronky out t-shirt, a Cronky out scarf, a Cronky out flag, even though he's not going anywhere, Americans don't like to be embarrassed. You know, Americans feel they're superior to everyone else. They run the world. They don't like the attention. So I think that's one of the ways of going about doing things. Even though it's all too little, too late, we really need to get to the stage now where they at least hear us now. It's got to the point where Arsenal are not going nowhere. We're falling further and further down the table. I don't care why we are, because that's a past regime. It's dead and buried. I mean, for instance, if we chopped our leg off, you don't sit down and wait, do you? You learn how to walk with crutches. We need to take that next step forward now, rather than blaming Wenger, blaming Gazidis, blaming whoever. They're gone. They're finished. They're not part of the club no more. Yep. We've got to stop living off 2004. It's gone. Tottenham have overtaken us. I mean, I haven't even got any Tottenham mates. I despise Tottenham that much. If I find out I've got a Tottenham mate, I disown them. I mean, I've had an operation for Crohn's. If I ever found out that the blood was donated from a Tottenham supporter, I'd rather be embalmed. You know, I can't stand Tottenham. But the fact is, they're a better club than us now. They're doing better than us on the pitch, and they're actually going places, and we're not. Their squad is worth a lot more money. And if an Arab sheikh ever decided that he wanted to buy a club in London, he'd more likely be looking at Spurs than he would be looking at Arsenal at the moment, because our squad is not worth a penny.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, I support our players, but the thing is, players like Ozil, for instance, I prefer Ozil in the team rather than out of the team. That's my personal preference. But having said that, for the good of the club and for the wages he's on, he's not doing the club any favours at all now. So really, he's the one that needs to be moved on, even if it means making an example of him, just sitting on the bench forever and never play. Arsenal now got to change their whole mentality now and start playing hardball. I mean, Raul Sullivan said if players get into their last 2 years of their contracts, they're going to sell them. For instance, Aubameyang is in his last 2 years now, and if he doesn't sign, it would be interesting to see now how big their balls are. and what they would actually do with a high profile play like that, really.
Yeah.
I've actually got faith in Raul because he comes from Barcelona. The guy's a winner, and obviously they must have some sort of plan. But the fact that we've come this far into the transfer window, even though we've got the Adidas launch coming soon, the fact that there's not any leaks from anywhere to say we've actually signed anybody is actually a bit worrying.
Yep.
And also the fact that a lot of deadwood we still can't shift. Players like Mustafi and likes of them, they should have been the first out the door. Show mercy, even if we didn't get the fee that we wanted. Obviously, the fans don't like them. The club really has to do now, after 10 years of stagnation. The club really has to show us now some ambition. It'll never come from Croydon. We know that.
Yeah.
But the club really needs to get the fans on side of that, because mark my words, come Christmas, if Emery is not doing well for whatever reason, I think the Emirates will be empty.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, Sonny. I'm going to have to leave it there because we've run over time. But big thanks for your call. Some great points. It's a great initiative. How can people follow you on social media? Let them know how they can follow you so that people can get behind this.
It's all lowercase, Sonny, SONNY_Arsenal. Follow me. Let's when it's the right time. Let's get this Conti out petition going, and also this YouTube channel. And everything else, but everything needs to be about timing.
Lovely, great stuff, Sonny. Thank you so much, mate, and hope to speak to you again soon.
Thanks, Harry. Take care.
All the best, mate. That was Sonny. He's certainly got big plans ahead. So you can follow Sonny. He's given his Twitter handle there. Right. That brings us to the end of this week's Fans Phone In. Thank you so much to everybody who took part. Thank you so much to everybody who's watching in the live chat on YouTube, to those listening back on the audio later on. Much appreciated. We'll be back tomorrow with another Chronicles AFC Daily. And don't forget, on Monday, our Dennis Burkamp, a Master of His Art special, is coming to you, and that features Nigel Winterburn, Jeremy Aliadier, some words from Dennis Burkamp. Obviously, he didn't speak to me, but we got some clips on there as well from Dennis Burkamp himself, and some interesting insight into his time in Serie A as well, with Italian football journalist Vittorio Campanile. So you'll enjoy that one. If you haven't already, hit the like button just before we go. It really does help. Lots of you are watching. Not so many have hit the like button though, so please do that before we sign off. And we'll be back tomorrow with Chronicles AFC Daily, like I said, and back with another phone in next week. And if you want to take part, you know the drill by now. Every Thursday, 9 p.m, we'll be here. We'll be talking through all things Arsenal live on YouTube, and it's available, of course, to download in podcast format the next morning. Have a good evening. And you can get back to your Love Island now. Take care, guys. Goodbye.